Hey there. So today I want to continue talking about the Eric Esquivel situation, this time talking about the impact to the project BorderTown. Villalobos and Bonvillain have said both of them are leaving the project. They have given, both of them have given statements within this, and I'm going to cover those. I also find it kind of disturbing when you look at what some of the people out there have been saying about the comic industry. They have been saying that this was a known secret, that this guy was an abuser, that some of them out there have been warning people about it, and yet I find that to be rather disturbing when you can make statements like that and not see the problem within the industry. I've seen many a person talking about this kind of stuff, abuse and on within the industry repeatedly. Colleen Duran yesterday said that she knew about male victims this stuff has happened to. This grooming culture has basically taken in. And I find that to be disturbing because this stuff is a known secret then. And after all of the headlines that Berganza got, what exactly is changing there? I saw a lot of people denouncing that guy, saying, hey, this is a messed up situation. And yet what I'm hearing here over and over, it's a frightening thing. It's frightening if all of this remains true. Now, on that point too, there have been no charges that I am aware of. And, some of the accusations within this about underage girls and on, levying those against people, yeah, that's disturbing stuff. And, law enforcement should be contacted about that. People are allowed due process. They should be allowed a preponderance of evidence. This stuff, this trial by social media, that isn't the way that things should play. And yet, that is the way that they do. It's a really strange place to be, too. Like I say, there are people out there that say they knew about all of this. They have proof, basically. This guy has been sending illicit pics to people. This guy is accused of abuse and on. And yet nothing has happened until this basically blew the doors wide open. So Bonvillain and Villalobos both released statements today. I'm going to go over both of them. Here's Bonvillain's. 2 days ago, I was first made aware of the experience shared by Cynthia about her relationship with BorderTown writer Eric Esquivel. The way he treated her was disgusting and inexcusable, and issue 5 is my last issue working on BorderTown. It shames me to have put so much time and energy working with someone who is capable of such actions, and I'm sorry if the delay in response caused some confusion about my feelings. We were advised to let the attention remain on the parties involved, but it seems clear that Eric has no interest in acknowledging his actions, and I don't feel comfortable waiting any longer. Now, on that, with Eric, he has basically deleted all social media, and Twitter even is in lockdown. You can look at that, it's basically protected, and when you look at it, you can pretty much see one tweet. That's the only thing that's out there. But continuing on, I'm sorry to Cynthia and any other women he may have treated similarly in the past. If I had been aware of his history of abuse, I would have never joined the project, and without trying to speak for Ramon or anyone else, I believe they feel the same way. There was a separate issue raised with Eric months ago, and this was explained to me as resolvable interpersonal issues. I asked point blank if any of these issues involved abuse and was told they did not. One specific case, which I only heard third hand, was brought to D.C. Now I wonder within that, what exactly is coming up and swirling around this guy? What are these accusations being levied against this person? And again, why are people ignoring these things wholesale? Why in this system with these specific people are they ignoring it? They talk about listen and believe. They talk about making a culture wherein victims are protected, and yet we hear these things. Now, this is a vague statement, too, and it's in no way pointed at Bonvillain. I don't want it to seem like that. I just wonder, with statements like this and the stuff we've seen from people like Nick Hanover, why exactly are all of these things ignored by the very people who say that these these things are not ignorable. So continuing on, if at any point I thought there was more to the story than a guy being awkward, I would have been gone and was ready to leave the book at the time if that was the case. Again, no issues of abuse were ever discussed with me prior to a couple of days ago. Regardless, I believe Cynthia. I'm sorry for any pain Eric has caused her or anyone else, and I no longer wish to be associated with Eric in any way. So, you see people asking, do we know if BorderTown is going to be canceled? I'd like accountability from DC. Bonvillain says, hey, I only speak for myself. And this continues on. More and more people talk about that and on. So then we also see Villalobos post, and he posts it this way. I'm not looking at clips here. This is the way that he posted his statement. So he's basically taking shots. I don't know where they came from and on. But let's read what he has to say here. Out of respect for all parties involved, I wanted to stay quiet about the situation the last few days, but I feel like I should take a moment to say my piece. I've made it my practice to believe women, full stop. The bravery and strength it took for her to write that letter is probably not strength or bravery I may ever have. There have been vague rumors about Eric and his treatment of women, and although I was given no real specifics, I insisted to Eric that he come clean to me and our team about any inappropriate interaction he may have had. Yet again, there are rumors about the guy out there being an abuser, and with the specific people that work with him, you would think that all of this stuff about I believe women, full stop, and yet how are these things the same? How do you say that and still say, well, there are rumors about this guy, but maybe I didn't give him enough weight. I kind of regret that, and now, which he's going to go on and say. So continuing on here, I think now that I did not give enough weight to those rumors, and I can't state enough how much I regret that. To the best of my abilities, I took the matter through the proper channels, and DC Vertigo handled it in a way I felt responsible and direct. I probably can't get into detail. Allow me to get back to my job. I want to be clear that neither me, Tamara, or anyone in editorial knew about what came out, and it's very disheartening to see this information come out. BorderTown meant a lot to me because it was a confluence of so many of my interests, elements of horror, comedy, teenage rebellion, Latino culture, etc. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that I've poured everything I had into this, and it's the best work of my relatively young career. It has made my life better having done it, but this is not about me. Whatever this person felt and experienced is what matters the most, and I want to be clear that I think dealing with abuse and making the comic industry a safer place is the most important thing to have come from this. To know the art that I'm so proud of and the world I've lived in and created for the last year of my life had brought so much pain to individuals frankly outweighs the joy I know it brought others, and that is going to be something that is hard to reconcile. There is no way to really make up for of my shortcomings in this situation, but I hope in future actions I can find a way to show this is important to me. Thank you. So there's both people on this project that are really well known there that have decided to speak out. They're saying, though, within this, there have been other things that have come up again. They have been brought to DC's attention, and these things, for whatever reason, because they weren't considered credible, because people chose to ignore them, whatever reason they throw out there, this kind of stuff was overlooked. Remember that on the 10th, the following statement was made about Eric Esquivel, noting again that someone's saying, hey, we've been talking about this all along. We in comic books have known about this, and it was ignored. I mean, I find this to be rather troubling here. All I'm going to say about Eric Esquivel is that many of you were warned about his behavior, and you chose to keep protecting him. Shutting down predators means making the hard decision to trust their accusers rather than circling the wagons around them. Please trust victims. A number of us did what we could to warn collaborators about Esquivel's behavior, and the responses that came back were mostly along the lines of, he's my friend, and I trust him more than his victims, and that's unacceptable. We're not going to put a dent in comics abuse problem until we recognize that friends are just as capable of abuse as strangers. If someone warns you that someone is preying on people, please listen, especially if the accused is a friend. And for anyone wondering what's up with Eric Esquivel, allow me to be blunt. He's an abusive creep who regularly harasses women. Don't trust anyone who defends him or who publishes him. They were given ample opportunity to drop him, but instead chose to protect him. So there you go. I mean, you have these kind of things being said again and again. And again, on top of other statements out there, like saying, hey, I know of other victims, let me share a story that I've heard about, but you don't talk about who exactly that is. It's frightening to think that this is the comic book industry, where in other industries, this kind of behavior, outside of entertainment, this would not be typical. This would be something that people would work to purge out of that system. This kind of stuff, I don't understand exactly how it keeps coming up again and again and again. And yet, when we talk about problems within the industry, when we talk about professionalism and accountability, this kind of stuff goes into that too. When you're talking professional endeavors and you're talking about industry and making sure that people that work there are safe or safeguarded, I mean, that should be part of it right from go. And yet we keep hearing this over and over. We keep hearing about these known secrets. We keep hearing about people being arrested and on. There have been many people that I've talked about that have been arrested for different types of abuse. And it's a frightening endeavor to think that this is an industry where there are children around, there are people brought in, and the people there, the people with their names on the pages, those people are looked up to because of the things that they create. But anyhow, you tell me what you think about this stuff. Also, if you like this kind of content, you want more of this kind of content, please consider supporting the channel. Subscribe, like right off the bat. But also check the links in the description. There are ways to support the channel. Also, leave comments, because this kind of stuff, it has to be talked about. Share and come back daily. There's new content, sometimes multiple times daily, depending on what's out there. But as always, too, I want to thank you for coming back. Appreciate it. Leave your comments.